Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show is brought to you by DKI Canada. Across the street, across the country. He won the Memorial Cup as a player and the Stanley Cup as a coach, Mike Kitchen. And we'll talk about the King Proud Charity Challenge with Brent Morning. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Our first guest today hails from Shamburg, Ontario. He was an OMJHL All-Star with the Toronto Marlies, a Memorial Cup All-Star team member, Memorial Cup champion. He played 9 seasons in the NHL, 474 games with the Colorado Rockies and New Jersey Devils. He is a former head coach of the St. Louis Blues, an assistant coach with the Maple Leafs, Blues, Blackhawks, and Panthers, a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Welcome to the program, Mike Kitchen. Good to have you here, my friend.
Thanks very much, Joe. Nice to be here.
Awesome. And so, we like to begin at the beginning of your career. How did you get into the sport of hockey? Because you became pretty good at it.
Well, I grew up in a small town, Shamburg, and there was, a town of 800 people. And it happened to be that we did a lot of outdoor hockey on ponds. And then we knew the rink manager in Schaumburg, and he kind of opened the ice up quite often to us. And so we were able to get on the ice and skate. But playing in Schaumburg, I was fortunate. I grew up with a lot of players, or a lot of kids that were good players at that time. And so, we went on to win a Pee Wee All-Ontario Championship, and then we won a Bantam Championship, and then we won a Midget Championship, and that's where it evolved. Like, it just started. And then I had a friend that came, and it'd be an old hockey name, is Larry Keffer, used to work for the Aurora Tigers, and he came in, and he saw me play in Schaumburg, and at 15 years old, he says, look, I want you to come out to training camp with the Tigers. And so there was myself and Rick Hampton were the two 15-year-olds that went to training camp and ended up making the team. And things just kind of evolved from that. So it was the old Metro Junior B League at the time. And then the following year, it turned into the provincial Junior A team league. And then we went on, and then I got drafted by the Marlies in the first round and ended up playing there for 3 years, and was fortunate enough to win the Memorial Cup my second year. And they had won the Memorial Cup 2 years previously to that. And the best thing was having George Armstrong as our coach. George was a wonderful coach and just let us play as kids. And I see that picture that came up on the screen, and we just had a reunion, the 50th anniversary of us winning the Memorial Cup. And all the players in that picture, we looked at each other and we say, oh my God, 50 years. Can you imagine 50 years ago? So, but we had great stories, and the stories just got better and better as the more we were together.
Right. So, it's funny. We were just talking before you got on the air here, and we talked about success being when opportunity meets preparation, and you mentioned that a lot of hockey players were good hockey players, but you got to where you got to as a result of some opportunity. What were the sort of the special opportunities that you recall that led to your success?
Well, I mean, even getting drafted by the Marlies from a small town, now all of a sudden you have to go to Toronto, and that was a big move. I couldn't live at home. I boarded with a family, which was a terrific family, and so all my days with the Toronto Marlies, I just thought, oh, this is great. Never thought of playing in the NHL until after we won the Memorial Cup, and then there seemed to be some interest. And thought, oh, wow, maybe do something with this. And so we kept going, and And the following year is in junior. It turns out to be a rebuild year again. Every 3 years, junior, because there's that 20-year-old, everyone leaves. But
Yeah.
what hurt us a little bit is the WHA was starting to take players at 18. And so when we won the Memorial Cup that year, we lost a really good player in John Tonelli. He turned 18 in March, so his junior contract that he signed previously wasn't valid, so he left to go play in the WHA. And that was a big void because he was a great player. He's a good forecheck player, a good goal scorer. And so that's why in Toronto, we went 8 games against Kingston because it was the first 8 points. We went 8 games against Sudbury, and we went 7 games against Hamilton just to get to the Memorial Cup. And then, of course, we played Quebec and we played New Westminster. And so, but it was a tough playoff run for us. But missing a player of that caliber really hurt us. But we had a good team and were able to survive. And then I got drafted by the Kansas City Scouts, which used to be the Colorado Rockies, which is the present day New Jersey Devils. And so I got drafted there, and then I got drafted with the Toronto Toros that same year. And the Bill Waters was my agent, and I told Bill, I want to play 1 game in the NHL. So try and get me an NHL contract. So I just want to play 1. I would have been satisfied at 1 game. And so Bill says, okay, he's working, and that year that summer it moved to Colorado for the first year. And all they offered was a 3-way contract. So, the NHL contract, American League contract, and then the International League contract, which was a very tough league at the time, the International League. Mm-hmm. And so I signed that 3-way contract, and then that was kind of Paul Gardner. I know who's been on your show. We went to training camp together. We got sent down together. And we looked at each other, and we never really knew each other. We knew each other as opposition, playing against one another. He played in Oshawa. And so when we got sent down to Providence, he said, well, you want to live together? We might as well rent an apartment together. So we ended up renting an apartment together, and we only stayed there for 14 games, and we ended up getting called up together again. So, and then that's where it kind of took off. When I talk about opportunity, Johnny Wilson was our coach in Colorado, and he kind of liked the hardworking attitude I had, and he gave me the opportunity to start. Where Paul was a different story. Paul was always a goal scorer in junior, and he turned out to be a great goal scorer in the NHL. And so his opportunity was, he had the offensive flair, where I was more of a hardworking, grinding type of defenseman. So
the Colorado Rockies, Kansas City Chiefs, Colorado Rockies, eventually, of course, New Jersey Devils too. When the Scouts disappeared, became the Rockies, was that a tumultuous time for you guys as players, wondering where you're going, what's going on, and what's going to happen with this franchise?
Well, it especially was because it was only in Kansas City for 2 years. And then they weren't getting the fan base. And then it was up for sale. They closed operations, basically. And it was an oil man in Denver, Jack Vickers, who bought the team and moved it to Colorado. And if I can remember correctly, that all happened at the beginning of August. So they didn't have much time. They had a new arena that was built there for the Nuggets called McNichols Arena. So it was already in place. And it was just a matter of us coming in there. It wasn't so bad for Paul and I or anyone who was drafted that year because we didn't know any better. We thought, okay, we're going to go to training camp in Colorado. Where the guys from Kansas City, well, they had to pick up, move their families to Denver, and they didn't know, okay, what's going to happen now? Where's my career going to go now? The only hard part is, and we didn't recognize, we were too young at that time, But for the players who are in Kansas City, they're basically at sea level. And then when you go to Denver, you're the mile high city. And I tell you what, when you get into training camp, you're looking for your next breath just to get through the skating drills. It's that altitude really affected you.
So, okay, Colin Campbell was a teammate of yours with the Rockies. He eventually, of course, became NHL VP. And here's what Coley had to say about you. This is from the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame induction. Let's have a look at that.
We both played together for, believe it or not, the Colorado Rockies, and that's not the baseball team. That was the hockey team that Don Cherry coached after I was gone. And I played one year there with Mike, and we've maintained a friendship ever since then, because one of the most important things about me knowing Mike is that he's one of the few guys that I'm taller than. That's a joke.
Yeah, we get it. So, tell us about your time playing with Coley, and he did bring up Coach Don Cherry too. So, give us your thoughts on Coley and Grapes.
Well, at Coley, we always had that ongoing feud. Who was taller than the other? I'd be eating an apple off his head at the same time he was trying to eat the apple on my head. So, but anyways, Coley was a very competitive player. He was his stature was much like mine. He wasn't much taller than I was, and he played that same type of game where he was in your face type player, and so. We kept kidding each other. I think it's because we're so similar, and we could take a good ribbing. And to this day, if I met Coley, I saw Coley last summer, and we walked in and we just look at each other and we just chuckle, And I coached Coley's son in Florida, Gregory, and so
right.
That was always that was interesting too, because of the connection Coley and I had, and now I'm coaching his son, which was quite something, And then with Grapes, yeah, things really, the organization, they were trying to get some credibility. Although we did have, like, Johnny Wilson was a good coach, the first coach there, and that we had in Colorado, and then they wanted some more credibility, some more media presence, and of course with. Grapes coming in, you're going to get that, whether it's what he says to the media or, how he approaches the players and that type of thing. One thing I can say about Grapes, he was a good motivator. He was able to motivate. You knew where you stood with him. He was firm. He did have his favorites, but you know what? If you worked hard, he really liked you as a player. So. And then I think what happened, he wanted a little bit more, and Ray Miron was the general manager, and he was holding his ground of being the general manager, and he just wanted Grapes to be the coach and only the coach.
Right. Then his media career kind of went okay from there, so it worked out for him.
Yeah, it certainly did. Like he had a lot of success in coaching. Like his coaching, and he came up the right way, in the American League, the NHL, and he moved forward. Like he was a wonderful motivator, and and to this day, we'll talk, and he said, "Oh yeah, I remember those Colorado Rocky days," and then he'd go on poor Hardy Astrom, our goaltender at the time, because he went after him hard, and we didn't have a lot of success because he put too much pressure on him.
Well, yeah, he coached some pretty good players, and maybe he had some expectations of you guys as well. But when you coach Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito and those guys, and maybe you get jaded a little bit. So, okay, we have some video of you playing. Let's look at this. We go back to December of 1979, a game against the Maple Leafs. You're going to intercept a clearing attempt by Paul Harrison. You take it behind the net here. Set up Mike McEwen at the point. His shot tipped by Jack Valakat, a former Leaf. What was it like playing as a visitor in basically your hometown? We played with the Marlies, and yeah.
Well, hey, playing in Toronto, that was like a home game. It was going in. It was no problem getting up for the game. It could have been our third game, and 4 nights, and you're still going to be excited to play. And I think to this day, it still stands in Toronto that when the opposition comes in, a large portion of the players have family members or relatives that all go to the game and they want to have a good game in Toronto, because that seems to be the showcase. You go there and it's no problem getting up. So it makes it harder for the Leafs, I mean, because every team coming in there, they want to put on a show, and it's mainly for family coming in. So it was quite remarkable being there every time. I really look forward to it as a player, and then going in as a coach, because then I have my family come down, get a visit in there, and my daughter would bring me because we'd be on a road trip, and she'd bring me a good bag of oatmeal raisin cookies, homemade. So that was good always to take with me back on the plane, But it was really enjoyable. It was quite an experience as a player and as a coach.
As the oatmeal raisin cookies, homemade. Wow, that's awesome. You talk about the pressure of Toronto, and there's a lot of conversation about that over the last few days after the Leafs' recent playoff exit. And you coached in Toronto. You know what it's like. It's what is the deal? I mean, is it possible to overcome that and be successful here?
Oh, I do. I mean, there is, the one word you hear all the time is the outdoor or outside noise. And, yes, there is. But you're playing. My belief after I coached there and played in the Maple Leaf Gardens, and now which is Scotiabank. But my thing is, I think everyone should have the opportunity to play there, coach there, be a trainer. It's the only feeling in the NHL. There's nothing else like it. Maybe Montreal might be a little like it with pressure because of the 2 languages, French and English. But in Toronto, everyone should experience it. But I know a lot of players, it's too much pressure for them. But I think I can't imagine you have success when we did in 92, 93 with Pat Burns. We went in and the fans were so behind us, and so, it was such a push and it gave us adrenaline as a team to keep it going. And we'd be, there'd be a fatigue factor setting in, and yet you wouldn't even notice it because the fans gave us so much support. And I know when you lose, I mean, I was there in some tough years when we lost too, and it was very difficult. But it's something that you got to be proud of. If you got that logo on your chest, I mean, that's very special. Yeah,
and it's this year they came so close. I mean, a couple of bounces here and there. It's a different series completely. They're up 2-0, and they're going to Florida. They're up by a couple of goals. It looks like they're going to go up 3-0, and if they had, there's no question in my mind they would have won the series. And everything changes after that. I mean, we might see another Florida Stanley Cup championship. I mean, that's how close the Leafs were, and it's hard to sort of get your head around that, right? As a fan, because or as a critic, you say, "Well, here they go again, another opportunity blow." But it's just sometimes you just need to have those lucky bounces, don't you?
Well, Joe, a lot of people like that I talk to, and fans get frustrated. It's hard. It's hard to win. It's hard to win. It's hard to get in the playoffs, which the Leafs have found that the easy part of the season. But it is hard to win the Stanley Cup. You have to have a lot of things go your way. You got to have some bounces go your way. You got to have some luck. And it's like you said, if they get that 3rd goal, they probably go on to win the series. But when they came back and won that game, Florida, that gave them life. And the momentum changes so quickly in the playoffs. And if you have the momentum, it's how long you can keep it. If you lost it, you got to get it back as quick as you can. And you could see with the Leafs, and then they go into Game 6 and they play a great game after a tough Game 5. And then they go into Game 7 and you're thinking, oh yeah, they got all the momentum going forward. But Florida came out real strong that first 10 minutes, and grab that momentum right back. And so that was it. The playoffs are tough, and it's whether it's good goaltending, it's staying healthy, and I'm telling you, and getting the breaks at the right time.
Yeah. I remember Motor City Smitty. We had him on the show, and he was talking about how he'd already been involved with Colorado, and there's the first cup, that one series, and he said that there was a shot that came in and it beat Patrick Waugh, and I think it would have put I can't remember who they're playing in the final that year, but it was going in. It would have put the opposing team up 2-0. It would have been game over, and I think it was Blake knocked the puck out of the net after it gone past Waugh, batted it out of the air and cleared it. Anyway, the Avalanche came back and won the cup. There's tiny little bounces like that, posts that happen, and that's the difference between winning it all and losing. And it's such a fine line, right?
Well, yeah, it really is. I mean, I remember a series in Chicago. We're in overtime, and I'm not sure if it was Anaheim go down. They hit the crossbar, and we're in game 6, and we had to win. When we won the cup, we were down 2-1 against Boston, and we had to come and win 3 in a row. And we were down 2-1 against Tampa in 2015, and we had to win 3 in a row to win the cup. And it's hard to beat that same team 3 times in a row because you're only playing with the one team. And the amount of times we watch the video and trying to find a weakness in the opposition. Okay, what can we exploit here and what can we exploit there? And the goaltending coaches looking at, okay, where's the weakness in the goalie? But there's so much involved that, it's just those swings throughout the series where you happen to get that momentum, you get that moving forward. Like the game 7s, I think of in Toronto when I was coaching, we had game 7 against LA and Gretzky gets a hat trick. And Gretzky, I think to this day, says that was the best game he's ever played. I'm going, oh, that's
right.
Bad timing for the Maple Leafs, But anything can happen in game 7. That's you don't want to leave it to that. But
Yeah. We had Kelly Rudy on the show. He talked about that, but he also talked about the slash and the Gilmore that wasn't called and all the other stuff that happened. And there's always little things, right, that just occur. And when you're talking about goalies, it reminded me of Stolar's getting the shot from our buddy Bennett, and then and then so things happen, and the things that could turn things around, things that did happen and did turn things around, and I just want to look at a couple more plays from Mike Kitchen back in the playing days, and then I want to go back into the coaching business here. So this is the goal that you're involved with. This is another play against the Leafs in 1980. You avoid the check in the defensive zone to start the play. Merlin Malinowski is the guy who eventually finishes it here. You get the secondary assist on this play. But what were the great times for that Colorado team?
Well, I think the great time, I mean, hey, if you go through the years that I played there and you look at all the players that went through Colorado Rockies, oh my goodness, it was the number of players and different, and no one stayed very long. I was fortunate to stay for the entire period, so that's a big trivia question. They say, okay, who is the longest serving Colorado Rocky? But I think the best was we made the playoffs the one year, and we played Philadelphia, and the first game went into overtime, and that really scared me. Can you imagine Colorado Rockies beating the Philadelphia Flyers at that time? And then the next game, I think we got beat 3-1, but it was a really, intense period. It was good for the fans in Colorado. We sold out. I mean, even if we had 8,000 fans, they were always so loud in the building. But we sold out at 16,000 fans, and it was really exciting time for the organization. But it seemed like we're in, there's a lot of impatient, constant movement, whether it was through coaches and winning, gives you stability. And when you're not winning, there's going to be coaching changes. There's going to be, there was ownership changes because it's not successful. And it never got on its feet again until it got into New Jersey and had some stability there with ownership, and had stability there with, once they got settled coaching and a GM moving forward. And so I was hoping, I always knew Colorado could handle a NHL team. If the marketing was the same back through those years as it is today, I think the Rockies would have stayed. I really do. But it's just that, we didn't have a lot of media support. It was the Broncos, NFL, it was Denver Broncos were the team before the Colorado Rockies baseball team came. And so it was always, the orange defense. And that was always the big hype with Elway and everything like that. So it was hard to get any kind of press in Colorado at that time. But it was a beautiful place to live. I can't believe how the city's changed over the years. It's so populated now, and all for the best. And all the sports teams, they're all downtown, which is good. All the stadiums are downtown, and so that's the attraction to keep the downtown vibrant. But we're all hoping that we wouldn't move. And if you think as players, you're moving from Denver, Colorado, as a player, and you're going to New Jersey, you're going, oh my God, is that a culture shock? You're in the Midwest and you're going to the East Coast. So it was a culture shock, but we had good times there. We lived in some nice places. They do call New Jersey the Garden State. And, we lived in a couple areas that we saw why. So it was a great experience, but wished it could have stayed in Colorado.
Right. Okay. So one more play here. This is against St. Louis a couple seasons later. You're gonna. I think there's your point shot comes in. Steve Tambellini's going to clean it up. The shot here by Mike Kitchen seemed to have a little bit of steam on it. Nice play. So as we see that, let's talk a little bit about the Devils. They had some really lean series. I remember seasons. I remember Wayne Gretzky talking about the Mickey Mouse franchise and everything else. So there were some lean years, but then things started getting good. When it got good, did they honor you and some of the older guys?
You know what? No, never get much anything back from the New Jersey Devils now. I think they're only big on their since the teams where they started to have success. Because, we went from Colorado, and there was a lingering of the Colorado teams that were still there for, 2 to 3 years. And then they started to change the personnel. And so I think that was when they started to have a little more success. But it was going to Jersey. Yeah, we didn't have a lot of success. And then, I would imagine Wayne would like to have that comment back about, Mickey Mouse team. Because everyone plays hard. Ronnie Lowe was our goaltender in that game, and there's no one that worked any harder than Ronnie Lowe. Like, he just, he would just battle every shot. And so it's something that, he probably would like to have back, but, you have to go through those times to get better. And I think the team they inherited from Colorado, and with the player changes throughout every year, it'd be interesting to see how many players were on the roster every year and then throughout the whole 6 years in Colorado, because that just gave a whole bunch of uncertainty for the organization. And New Jersey inherited that going forward for 2 to 3 years by the time they could change and get their own type of team coming in there, that who they wanted and the coaches that they wanted. but it took time, and they were patient doing it, and then they ended up having a lot of success there.
Yeah, it went pretty well for them down the road. So, Ron Lowe, of course, former Gretzky teammate. He would have been pretty upset at that comment. And I'm thinking back. I think it was Raymond Bourque who knocked the puck out from behind Patrick on Lake. But anyway, the point is that you moved to New Jersey, and then you decided to pack it up. How did you know it was time to pack it up, and how did you get into the coaching gig?
Well, it's an interesting story because I went there, played there for 2 years, and then third year they brought in Doug Carpenter as a coach, and so I went to training camp, and I went through training camp, and this is when the team started to change because they had draft picks that they wanted and give people opportunities, and So the preseason games, I think I played 1 or 2, and then the regular season started, and I wasn't dressing. And so Max McNabb was the GM. So I went to Max, and I said, Max, what's going on here? And, I'm not really dressing. I'm not dressing at all. I'm a healthy scratch. And he basically said, well, be patient. I'll get back to you with 7 and 10 days. So, I stayed patient. But my wife was home with a newborn, and then she was pregnant with our second, which was back in the Shamburg area. And so I'm just kind of trying to make sure she's living with our parents and things like that. So that was fine. She was in good hands. But I wanted to know, where's my career going? And they said, well, I think we're going to send you down and to Maine. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go home. Can I go home and see my family for a week? And so they said, sure. I went home see my family, came back and went to Maine. And in the meantime, I was asking Max McNabb can you get me traded? Is there any teams interested, or just throw me in as an extra, throw a bag of pucks along in the trade and do what you can. And he says, well, you know what? I think you're too valuable to the organization. And I said, well, I'm not playing here. How would that be? And he says, well, we'd like to keep you in the system. And we'd be afraid to lose you. And I'm going, well, no, I just want to play as many NHL games as I can as a player. That's all I want to do. And he said, well, we'll get back to you. So I went down there, never heard much more about it. And so I went into, called Max and said, okay, what's going on? He said, well, I think we're just going to have you down there, and you can help Tommy McVie coach and be a player coach. And I thought, you know what, my heart wasn't in it, and it wasn't fair to my teammates. And I had 2 years left of my contract, and I have a young family at home. And I said, well, I think I'm going to go home. I'm going to go. And so I left and went home, and that was the end of my playing career. But all I wanted to try and get an opportunity with another team to see if I could make another team. I think the Islanders at the one time were interested, but it never came about. And so I just thought, okay. And so I stepped away and I started working, I worked in construction, like estimating insurance losses. And then I got into the printing world, selling printing. And then we can get into how the coaching started after that. But it was an interesting time. I was I think 28 at the time. And because of the underage draft, that meant I was 10 years older than the youngest player coming in. And some of the young guys coming in at that time in New Jersey were Ken Danico and John McClain, Kurt Muller. And so all those guys were coming in. And so I did play a short time with them, but not very long. So that's kind of how that's how my playing career ended. So then I get an opportunity to go to the Leafs. Well, we can get into that however you want to take this, but
sure, yeah. How did that happen? The coaching gig with I guess the Newmarket Saints first.
Well, yeah, so I was worked in construction for a year, like estimating insurance losses, and then a friend of mine offered me to do printing, sell printing downtown. So I started. So I thought, geez, I don't know anything about printing. He says, don't worry about it. You just have to service the accounts. But in the meantime, Paul, my good friend Paul Gardner, was the coach of Newmarket Saints, and he said we're good friends, and we lived in the same town of Aurora, and he said, geez, I would need an extra hand. Would you be interested in come out on the ice here and there? And I said, no, not at all. And so he says, let me call Gord Stelly. So he called Gord, asked Gord. Gord says, sure, if he wants to, and we can, he'll be able to come out on, whatever his time frame is. So I had to go to my boss in the printing industry and ask him, and he said, sure, it'd be a good opportunity, do it. I just need to make sure you service the accounts. You can maybe miss a Friday, so you have a long weekend, because the American League being a weekend league, right, and you could travel with the team and that. So I was able to go there and work part-time as an assistant coach. And then at the end of that year, and I really liked it, and so at the end of that year, I went to Gord Stellick and I said, Gord, you really need an assistant coach in the American League, because this is all your future coming up. And you only have one coach there, and he does the travel, he does the hotels, and he coaches. And I said, you need someone else on the ice to help with skill development. And so Gord took it with him, thought about it, came back to me and said, well, you know what? I'm a rookie GM. I can't be the first guy that hires an assistant coach in the American League, because there's no other assistants in the American League at that time. And he says, let me get back in touch with you. And so he came back a little while later, and he said, can we meet at the house? And at that time, in my playing days in Jersey, we used to always bring a little boy up, and he'd stay with us for a couple weeks, and I'd put him in a hockey school up here. And so we did that for a couple years, and he happened to be here at the meeting. And I said, Gord, can Mike sit in on the meeting? He says, oh, sure. So Gord went and put out, he says, look, I can't be the first GM hiring an assistant coach in the American League, but I'll tell you what, are you interested in being an assistant coach in Toronto for the Toronto Maple Leafs? And I looked at him, I said, oh, I don't know about that. I don't think I'm ready for that. I've only dabbled as a part-time assistant. He says, no, I'm serious. And I said, well, I'm going to have to give it some thought. And so he walked out the door, and the little boy from New Jersey, Mike, he says, are you crazy? You got to take the job. He said, you got to take the job. He says, you got to take it. So anyways, a week or so later, I called Gordon back and I says, okay, I'll do it. But as moving forward now, George Armstrong was the head coach who didn't want to be the head coach because Ballard had put him there. And so at that time when I was hired, George was the head coach. Then George leaves. And then shortly after that, Gord leaves as the general manager because he went to New York Rangers. He had a tiff with Harold. And then they bring Floyd Smith, who was kind of the assistant GM. I don't know if he was assistant GM or at that time, but he was in management at the time. He took over to be the GM. Well, him and Doug Carpenter were good friends. And so he hired Doug Carpenter. Well, Doug Carpenter happened to be the coach that got rid of me in New Jersey. And so my first first head coach, who was my boss in Toronto, was Doug Carpenter. So he said, our first day, he says, we have to sit down and talk and clear the air. So we sat down and talked, and then everything went well. And we turned out to have a pretty decent year. I mean, we had some players like Lehman and Oleschuk had career years, and so we were pretty successful that year. And then the next year we got off on the wrong foot, and Doug got fired and Tom Watt took over. But it's kind of ironic where Doug fits into this whole picture.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the guy who who kind of didn't want you in Jersey, and then now he's good. Yeah, good thing you cleared the air though, because it sounds like everything got smoothed out okay. So yeah. So you end up coaching in Chicago, and you coached a few places as well. But the coaching gig in Chicago turned out extremely well. Hooking up with Joel Quenneville, and of course, I want to make it clear this is after the business that when Chicago had that the sexual assault stuff. You came in after that had taken place, so I wanted to clarify that. But aside from that, I mean, Chicago, the work you did there with the players and the job there, the success you had there. What was it like being in Chicago during those years?
It was great. I mean, when they won in 2010, all their young players, you're talking Tays, Kane, Duncan, Keith, Seabrook. They were all very, very young at the time, and so they won a cup. And so I came after that year, and so I'm walking in. They all feel good about themselves, and usually, you've been in. So at this time, I've been in the league quite a while. I've been in the league 12 years, and before going to Chicago, and I'm looking around. I don't know one player. Usually, you come across either you coach one player, or you might have some kind of association with them prior, and yet I didn't know one player. So I was going in green, so I just had to sit back, watch what was going on, and kind of find my way. So it was a big adjustment, and they were pretty self-confident group after winning the cup, being so young, right?
Right.
And then that first year I was there, we kind of struggled, and we had some difficult, games. We were inconsistent in our play quite a bit, which you could understand because I think the players thought it was going to be easier than what it was after they won the cup, and they had to reestablish themselves. Hey, no, we got to get back to where we had success before. And so going through, and then we go through the lockout and miss part of that season. And we come back, and our team took off. I can't remember that year how many we didn't lose very much. I want to say maybe 7 games or something. We went on a great big run, and it continued into the playoffs, which was and that was the year we played Boston, and. Which was a terrific experience for me because, when I was coaching in St. Louis, we had really good teams. And if we had a goaltender, and we did have Grant Fuhr there at the time, but he was at the end of his career. But if we would have had a goaltender, we would have won maybe 1 cup or maybe 2 cups. We had Pronger and McGinnis and good leaders, Mellenby. And we had a real good team. And so going back to Chicago, I'm going in there. And once we got into the lockout season and won against Boston, it was an unbelievable experience to see what the players go through, the price they pay, the injuries, how dedicated they are to winning. But to experience that twice, it's unbelievable what the players play through, and their dedication of everything is just hockey. They're so focused on winning the Stanley Cup, and that's why it's such a hard trophy to win, hard championship to win. And I think when you win it, you're in a very special group of people that had the opportunity to win the cup.
Yeah. By the way, there's 36 wins, 7 losses, 5 overtime losses that season. So. On the way to the Stanley Cup championship. So you're able to win the Stanley Cup for the first time as a coach or a player in that 2012-13 season. What was it like to be able to lift that mug for the first time, for the opportunity to lift that mug, period?
Oh boy, I'll tell you what, it was good because Joel had said, "Look, stay close to me." Okay, make sure you stay close. And so I was around, and I didn't know what he meant, right? So, of course, after the players have it and they're
Yeah.
parading it around, they hand it to Joel. And then the next person he's handed it to, I understood why I had to stay close to him. It was me. And to put that up, it was a tremendous, tremendous feeling. It was something very special, and thing you'd never forget. I go back, if I stumble across a picture now, and I go, oh, geez, what a great time. What a great time it was, So, and, you're able to have a lot of fun with it. You get it for basically what you get it for is 12 hours, and you're 12 hours. And I know that particular year, Jonathan Toews had it before me, and that was in Winnipeg. Well, if they didn't have a flight delay, and so I didn't get it until about to where I took it back to Shamburg Arena. I didn't get it until about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. So my day was getting cut short, and I had a lot of things planned. So, but you couldn't, and the people, it just brings it just brings its own attention. Like the cup, when the cup's there, people are just crazy, and it's just it's just a remarkable feeling.
Yeah, yes, we saw a picture there from the arena, and of course the boating trip that you went on with it, and it's so fun because, like you just mentioned, bring it to the arena in Schaumburg where it all started for you, and to have that sort of memories of this kid who probably at that particular time had absolutely no idea. I mean, you mentioned yourself, and not until you're with the Marlies really did you even consider an NHL career, but here you are. Stanley Cup-winning coach, and what a phenomenal experience that was, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, it really was. To take it back, and it was the only place. Like people say, okay, what are you going to do with it? And I said, well, no. And how ironic it is. Like when Rick Hampton and I played for the Aurora Tigers at 15 years old. Okay, so that's when we were playing, and Rick, played in the WHA, he played some in the NHL, and he was a great junior player. So it turned out when I wanted to go back to Schaumburg, Rick was a manager of, I think it was 3 or 4 different rinks: King City, Nobleton, Schaumburg Arena. He overlooked them all, and so I called Rick and I said, "Is there a chance to bring the cup there?" And he says, absolutely, bring it here. I'll have everything set up for you. And we took it there, and there was no thought about it, taking it back to Schaumburg so that people could see it and experience it and get their picture with it. And that was the best. And then we took it to South Lake, a hospital in Newmarket, and took it up to the children's ward. And then a friend of mine, he has a helicopter. He said, look, I'll give you a lift up to the cottage. So he gave us a lift up to the cottage, which was Cobeconk, and we had a big, closed down the Patty House, and we had a big party with 450 people there, and which was terrific. And then the following time in 2015 when we won, you have to change the venue. So we thought, okay, we have to go, and we took it to Red Crest, which Brent will be quite familiar with, out at Cardinal. And so we took it there, and we had an event there. So it'd be more Aurora and Newmarket, Schaumburg people getting an opportunity to get their pictures with the cup. And then we once again took it to South Lake. And once again, we took it up to Cobeconk, but different venue altogether. And we took it to the Legion, and it was open to the public. And so everyone just came, like people traveled from Orillia and Barrie and all over to come and get their picture with the cup. So it was quite an experience, and it was wonderful to share it with all the fans and the people and your family, and it was just a terrific time.
Yeah, we saw the pictures. It looks pretty amazing. So now, a few years ago, you were inducted into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame. Tell us about that honor. I mean, it's interesting. Paul Gardner, you talked about, it was inducted there as well. And I think Gord Stellick did the induction ceremonies. It was on your behalf, and tell us about that honor at Aurora?
Well, I was very tickled. I had two people that are prominent people in Aurora that asked me. They really thought it'd be a good idea trying to, you know, get you into the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame, and so they went, and once I was accepted, it is just a wonderful honor. Unfortunately, I was in Chicago coaching at the time, and I couldn't make it. And my
Yeah.
wife did a wonderful speech on my behalf, and so which was good, and so we had a lot of family members that were able to attend. I know Bobby Orr was there, and I know Bobby because of, back in the days I worked at his hockey school in Aurelia through Bill Waters, and so he was there because of the Stemmels, because Brian Stemmel is also in there. And so Bobby he was there, so he always had my family was so tickled to see Bobby again. Well, they'd get there and they'd go and they had their pictures with them, and he's such a class act. But it's a great honor to be part of that, and to get recognized as in the sports end of it, and be part of the Aurora Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, Mike, you've always been a real charitable guy, done a lot for the community in York and Peel in particular. You brought up South Lake Regional Healthcare Center. You've donated masks to them during COVID. You've done a lot of work. And here's another charity we're helping out close to our heart. And we're going to bring in Brent now. Brent Morning. And he is from Kettleby, Ontario, former Timmy ambassador for Easter Seals, ambassador for Al Balding's Golf Week for Timmy, longtime advocate for folks with disabilities, Gary Wright Humanitarian Award winner for 2020, the chairman of the King Proud Charity Golf Tournament. Brent Morning. Brent, welcome back to the program, buddy. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Joe. This seems to be an annual visit, it appears to be. So.
Yeah, but let's keep it that way. It seems to work pretty good. So, Brent, we want to talk a little bit, we're talking about Bobby Orr. No, Bobby was close to your heart, too. I mean, you got an opportunity to be the Timmy for Easter Seals a few years back, and you got a chance to meet Bobby Orr. You got a chance to take part in the Bobby Orr skate for Easter Seals back at Old Maple Leaf Gardens. How cool was it to meet the greatest defenseman in hockey history?
It was the first minute was like, oh, Bobby, okay. Now he taught me within a minute that we were going to be friends, and that's the way it was going to be. Okay, so I didn't really believe it, but 40 years later, we still are friends. We're born on the same day. Now, I always kid him he's a little older than I am, but that's okay.
Same date.
I'm very, very proud to be associated with him to this day. He has tried to always contribute something to one of my events. Sometimes it's just advice, and sometimes it's don't worry about it, you're doing all right. And I've learned a lot from my friend Mike Kitchen over the years too. I remember the week he got hired from the Leafs, he was like, "Can you keep a secret?" And I said, "Yeah." So
yeah, that was pretty cool.
It's really good it's really good to join him here today, and it's really good to help arrange this. And I'm just as tickled pink to be involved with him because he's been a big part of King Township and Shamburg for years and years and years. And he, like my family, have always been giving back to the community, and I've learned a lot from each one of them. So,
well, tell us about Brent, the King Proud Charity Challenge coming up June 26th.
Well, in the last couple of years, we've always supported We Care, as you know, but this year we're going a different direction. In memory of my dad, calling it the King Proud. Just before my dad passed away, we had talked about doing something with the Chamber of Commerce, calling it the King Chamber Youth Grant. And lo and behold, well, we had that figured out, and my dad had passed away, unfortunately. So in honor of him, the King Chamber decided to call it the Morning Youth Grant in honor of his service to the community. So I thought, oh, well, here's my chance to really make a difference. And we got some merchandise, and I helped. I didn't actually design the logo, but I met with the administrator and a graphic designer, and they've come up with a couple of logos. And my dad suggested King Township is one of the horse capitals of Canada per capita, so he thought it would be a good idea to somehow put a horse in one of the logos, and that's what they did. So, and unfortunately, a couple months later, before it was all finalized, Dad passed away. It was kind of hard on Olive, but the last couple of years of his life, I could tell he was doing little things to prepare me for life with it, and I guess it worked out pretty good. So we even have Joe. I think you're going to play this year. I think you're going to play when we've got a.
I'm in.
Mike Kitchen's.
I'm in. I got my check in.
I'll give you the hot dogs, and you're all set.
Free hot dogs. I'll do anything for a hot dog, Brent. You know that.
Yeah. Cardinal. Right now we've got about 10 or 15 spots left, so it's going to do really well. I don't know what we're going to raise, but it's going to be split between King Chamber of Commerce's Morning Youth Grant in memory of my dad, as well as the 3 King Township Lions clubs, both all of King City, Noble, and Shamburg. They're going to split one share between the 3 of them, and Eastern Seals Ontario, of course, will get. They'll get directly their share this year. I've always been involved with them, and always will. As an Eastern Seals kid myself, I know what it's like to experience camp and wheelchairs and walkers and things like that. And Mike has personally, I was thrilled to actually. I shared the story on Facebook. I think you remember the night of the planning of Storm in January, and Mom was hell bent. She had to go to this hockey game, and she couldn't see, but she drove for about 3 hours. But we got there just in time because she wanted to see our friend Mike Kitchen play, and I think he got a penalty that night. So
it wouldn't have been a goal.
No. Don't you have to hit the net first?
Well, penalties. At least he's on the score sheet, right?
Oh yeah, he's on the penalty. I think he. I remember he told me he saw me. That I was like, geez, I didn't even know you knew me. But I mean, I knew he knew of me, but I didn't know. Like, I saw your mom and if. Mike knew my mom very well, and she wasn't going to miss a good hockey game, especially in the goal seats. So no, I was thrilled and to watch, to be able to years later be able to skate at Maple Leaf Gardens with my walker with Mike. One of my jobs was on the committee was to bring an old celebrity in, and he was Mike. I called, so he came. So I was thrilled to. I was thrilled to be able to, geez, I wonder if I'm old enough. I wonder if Mike Kitchen will trip me at Maple Leaf Gardens. I'm still playing hockey. Well, we weren't playing hockey, but I think he tripped me one time, or almost tripped me. So I was just thrilled to be tripped at me on Maple Leaf Gardens. So, as a younger day, when I was younger, that was only a dream. So to be tripped on Maple Leaf Gardens by somebody was like, wow, this is neat.
By anybody,
And I think Ken Yuremchuk ran me into the board by accident one day, and that was kind of neat because I was like, geez, I got body checked by an NHL player. That's but as I say, I am thrilled. I am thrilled to be launching. A couple of years ago, we launched some merchandise in memory of my dad, and some of the proceeds go to the Morning Youth Grant, and it's going well. That's going well. We've got last year, I believe Seneca College gave the Morning Youth Grant a big donation at the annual night, and I was rather tickled pink. And my wish was to sit back quietly and enjoy the night and with my 2 closest friends, and I did that. And both of them will be with me on the day of the tournament, I believe. So that's the main thing. And I'm happy to have Mike Kitchen around, and then he can play golf for me since I can't do it anymore. So. But before in 1997, I did get a hole-in-one, so that's something we'll always have with me.
Yeah, and you also beat Gary Betts in a putting contest, right?
Yes, I did. We'll have to bring that up.
Finish that thought, Mike.
Yeah. Oh no! Hey, Brent, just so you know, I can't play golf anymore either.
That's good. No,
I never could. So I mean, I tried.
Well, Doc, then I'll make sure my committee has hard hats on when they see you guys coming.
Yeah. Everybody around, please.
We're trying to make arrangements to get a Colorado sweater. with your name on it for the silent auction.
Wow.
And we'll let you know if that happens. We'll supply the Sharpie, and you can just sign it. And we're working on that. Either that or in your jersey sweater, one or the other. So yeah,
pretty cool.
Things are
going
very well.
We saw the phone number up there. I believe that's to call you directly, isn't it, Brent? The 905-841-5735, right?
Yeah.
That's for the Charity Golf Challenge. And, of course, the website is charitygolfchallenge.ca.
Yeah.
And if you just either way, you can sign up to play. And the money, as you mentioned, is going to great place. You know, your dad, you talked about him, losing him recently, and tough time. He was a counselor, I think, for 20 some years in King Township. And, it's great to have this is part of his legacy. This is awesome.
It's good. It kept me. As you know, I'm pretty good at fundraising. It was an opportunity for me to kind of stay focused on something positive, because it's not always positive for the first little while, especially. But he taught me well in the last couple of years. This is what you do. This is how we do it. This is what we do. This is what we do. This is what we don't do. So I have followed his wishes, and having cerebral palsy, sometimes you have to stand up and do what you believe in, and that's what he always taught me to do. So he may be gone, but his lessons are still inside my heart and my head.
Beautiful.
Joe, the Kitchen family and the Morning family go way back. Like so Brent's parents and my parents they grew up together. They both were in similar business. My father was heavy machinery, and Brent's were in the trucking business. And they trucked a lot of water, Brent? And so it's a matter. We go back years and years. Our families do, and to have that opportunity to get to know Brent better. And of course, I know Brent's brothers and that. So which is they're a very special family. And so for Brent to do this and moving forward in honor of his dad, and it was quite special.
Yeah, beautiful guys. I appreciate you both being on here. And I actually have a question. We're partnered with a group called Believe, Become, Be You. It's a mentorship program for kids 10 to 17, inspired by the late Sean Gindy, led by Papa Jack. First, you, Mike, what's a message you might have for any kids today who are struggling to find their way?
Oh boy, I just find with kids nowadays, from when we were growing up, when we were young, there's so much more out there, and I just find find a passion, find what your passion is, and embrace it and do it. But there's so many. I don't know if it's opportunities, but so many things that I think it confuses young people, and they get really, they don't know what their passion is. And my best advice: experience everything you can and find what you love to do, and that kind of gives you a direction in life. Because once you have that passion, it kind of takes you down your path that you want to go on. And it's but the experience, but the opportunities out there are so vast compared to what we had when we were growing up.
Right. And don't be afraid to try, right? I mean, it's how you're going to know if you like something and if you're afraid to try it. Brent, how about you, buddy? The challenges that you've had to experience in your life, and what would be the advice for you to somebody who might be undergoing similar challenges?
If you need help, if you need help, ask. If you need something, ask. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. With the way the world has changed, I think mental health problems are more, I don't want to say acceptable, but they're treatable, or there's more encouragement involved in it now. So all I can say through my experience, and never lose contact with anybody. You can learn something from everybody, good, bad, and indifferent. I'm very fortunate in life to have been friends with business leaders, celebrities, hockey coaches, and I've learned a little bit about from everybody and everything. And sometimes the most important thing is you have to believe in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you. And I've always been taught that by my family and friends, and even Mike has took me aside and told me how it was going to be someday, and it worked out pretty good. So as a result, I own a replica Stanley Cup ring, courtesy of the Chicago Blackhawks. So I'm very proud of that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mike, any chance of you getting back into coaching, or is it? I mean, your buddy Joel, former teammate, he's got a gig in Anaheim. Any chance he's going to pick up the phone and call you up?
Yeah, no, I think you know what? I have 3 grandsons under 4 or 4.5, and they are kind of the jewel of my life right now, and I couldn't see them leaving. And my wife always said, in the last couple of years, said, "Look, if you go back to coaching, I'm not coming with you. Okay, so you're on your own. I'll come visit you, but you're on your own." So I think that ship has sailed. But do I miss the game? Yeah, I really miss the game, especially at this time of year, because this is when coaches really coach. You get in and you're against one team, and you're looking at systems, and you're looking at individuals, like we had said earlier, how to exploit the opposition. And this is the fun time of year for the coaches. And I really miss that. So I kind of put my coach's hat on as I'm watching all these games. Problem is that, well, they're all good now because they're 8:00 games, but those 9:30 starts, I struggled staying up past the second period. But yeah.
All right. Well, listen, Brent, good luck with the event. Thank you guys both for being on here. Mike has been great catching up, and thank you so much for this. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Hey, my honor, Joe. Thank you very much, Brent. Thank you for being part of this and for this and this special event. But thanks, Joe, and it's great catching up with you and seeing you. So,
all right, and we'll see you both on June 26th.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Thank you. So when we come back, Larry Robinson rocks the world of Gary Dornhofer, breaks the boards in the process. In 1992, the best locally owned restoration companies came together with one goal: to make disaster recovery better for Canadians. And to this day, DKI remains one of the only 100% Canadian-owned disaster restoration groups in the market. Fire, flood, or storm damage. When things go wrong, the right help makes all the difference. With the right tools and local expertise, we handle everything from emergency response to full-scale restoration, getting homes and businesses back on track the right way. Because a home is more than 4 walls. A business is more than a building, and recovery is about more than repairs. When you choose DKI, you're choosing a company that's put Canada first since 1992. Locally owned, nationally backed, Canadian through and through. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Offer maybe the biggest body check in NHL history. Let's have a look at that one, Vic. Now this one here that broke the boards. They actually had to physically come out and repair the boards. You can see the crack in it right there. Tell us about that.
Yes.
And was that your best?
Well, it's funny because I remember the hit, and it kind of set up perfectly where Dorney was coming down of course, with his head down, and he wasn't expecting me to come across. And so when I made the hit, it was just right after where the penalty box is, and there's a 2x4 that goes across that holds the boards. And I don't know, maybe it was cracked a little bit, but when I saw the hit in later years, I went, holy mackerel! And you have to know the way the boards in the forearm are. I mean, they don't give, and those boards actually bent and came back. So I think it was a lot harder than I thought I hit him. But I saw Dorney in years after, and I don't know how the conversation come up, but he goes, yeah, he says, I wanted to get up right away and not show that you hit me that hard. And he goes, that night I said, I went to the bathroom and I was spitting up blood. So I says, I think it hit me a little bit harder than I thought. So I said, well, these are years after, Dorney. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. And then we laughed and let it go. So.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have told you that at the time either. He would have said, no. I was fine. You didn't hurt me at all.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
But you guys had an amazing team, obviously, and I summed up by your captain when he was on the show just a little while ago. Let's pick that up. Discover the secret to timeless vitality at Renew Medical Center in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Our specialists unravel the science of aging, tailoring plans to defy its effects. Experience cutting-edge regenerative therapies such as stem cells and exosomes, addressing aging at its core.
It's a wonderful spot, and I highly recommend it for whatever you may need, whether you just want to feel better, you want to look better, have basically a quality of life, just to ramp it up a little bit as we age.
Liberate yourself from aging-related concerns, where accountability, technology, and passion for regenerative medicine converge. Begin your path to peak health and wellness with us. Schedule your appointment today at renewpv.com and elevate your quality of life.
Parents, what's the biggest fear for kids 10 to 14? A future they think they can't handle. At Believe, Become, Be You, we know confidence in the future is a habit we can build. Our course doesn't just prepare kids for the future, it seeds them with skills they will use now. For a limited time, the I Believe in Me Foundation is offering the first 1,000 kids and their parents 1 year free access. This priceless opportunity will save you over $2,000. This isn't just a course. It's a journey in developing life-enhancing skills that will grow with your child, fostering gritty minds, creative futures, and better bonds. Get signed up now at BelieveBecomeBeYou.com. That's BelieveBecomeBeYou.com.
And we want to thank all the folks who make the show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Spotify, Breaker, wherever you get your podcasts from. Also, check out the show on YouTube. All of our past great shows are on there, clips, shorts. Like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Our socials are at Joe Swiss Tilley on Instagram and Threads. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show on Facebook. Thanks once again to Mike Kitchen and Brent Morning for being on the program. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. Joe Tilley here. My wife Penny Claire and I recently took an amazing trip to Egypt and Jordan with Trip Oppo. And here are our top 10 must-dos. Another must-do experience is a luxurious cruise down the Nile River. The ship was elegantly furnished with premium facilities, including a spacious lounge and a swimming pool. The cabins were comfortable, well-appointed, offering panoramic views of the Nile River and the surrounding landscape. I would highly recommend that you book your next trip through Trip Oppo. Call them today. Rooted in 60 years of tradition, Sleepy Hollow is a private golf club with a friendly community of members just minutes from Toronto. With mature trees and rolling fairways, Sleepy Hollow provides a challenging and enjoyable experience for passionate golfers. Enjoy great golf, amazing dining, and a picturesque patio second to none. Visit sleepyhollowcountryclub.com.